Hello, family. How you doing? This is Lead Professor Q at your service, and you guys know what time it is. It's time for instruction. Today, we're going to go over one of my lectures for my project management classes. This is from the book Contemporary Project Management, and we're going over chapter 1, which it gives us an introduction to project management. Hey, take a look at the lecture, go over my content and all my slides. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, hey, please put it in my comment section, or if you have my email address, you can go ahead and send me an email as well. I hope you enjoy and learn something. I'm out. Hello, students. How you doing? This is Lead Professor Q at your service. And today we are going to go over Chapter 1, Introduction to Project Management from the Contemporary Project Management Plan-Driven and Agile Processes Approaches book, 5th edition. So, just real quick, some of the topics that we're going to cover today in this chapter is like, what is a project, the history of project management, how can a project work be described, understanding the projects, going over some of the project roles. We'll go over some PMBOK 7th edition stuff, and then finally giving you just a little bit of an overview of Agile as an Agile Introduction. So, two things that we're going to ask. You must understand in order to move forward in this class, what is a project and what is project management. So, what is a project? So, the PMBOK defines a project as a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. This is straight from the PMBOK guide itself, and that we'll cover what the PMBOK is a little bit later. So, if you take a look at anything right here, always know that the outcome of a project is a product, a service, or result. I guarantee you guys this will be on the test. When you have a project, you deal with what we call stakeholders. Stakeholders are individuals or organizations who may affect or be affected by or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project. You know, when you're working on projects, some of the requirements are they require an organized set of work efforts. They're progressively elaborating in detail. They have a defined beginning and a defined end. Really understand that every project, ultimately at the end of the day has a defined beginning and a defined end. And then you have a unique combination of stakeholders. So this is the example that we like to use. This is one of my classes, okay? That could be considered a project. And when you think of a class, whether you're taking a business course or an IT course or a science course or a language course, typically when you're in class or you're taking this course, you're going to have what they call stakeholders, people who have an investment in you doing well with this course. Might be an employer, might be a family member, might be a spouse. You don't know, but somehow you completing that course, there's going to be somebody benefiting or somebody being affected by that product, service, or result that you're working on. So let's go over quickly project management. Project management, based off the PMBOK, is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. Again, project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. When you're talking about project management, right, you have what we call the initial stages, processes: initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closing. Now, this may vary between organizations, right? But ultimately, understand that you have these 5 phases in a project management that we will go over later on in this course. So let's talk about the history of project management. It emerged as a formal discipline in the 1950s. It was developed for aerospace and construction. It involved determining and controlling the project schedules. In 2001, Agile was created for more adaptive planning and originally for software projects. In recent years, more focus has been given to the soft skills of communication, leadership, and teamwork. Understand that in project management, those soft skills are important. Communications, leadership, teamwork. You're dealing with human beings. Therefore, there's a lot of coordination and collaboration required. Having these soft skills definitely is a plus. How can a project work be described? So it is project versus operations, soft skills versus hard skills, authority and responsibility, and then we're going to touch on the project life cycle. So, projects versus operations. Projects versus operations. When we're dealing with this, projects are always temporary. Projects have routine and unique characteristics. Operations are always ongoing work. So again, see right here, this is an example that we can use is this maybe a building, right? You build a facility, you started from scratch, or you build a house. It takes a period of time, but it has a defined beginning and a defined end, right? Operations are ongoing work, and operations consists of ongoing work needed to ensure that an organization continues to function effectively. So more maintenance work, utility work. That would be a good example of operations or ongoing work. Now let's talk about soft skills versus hard skills. Okay, so some of the soft skills activities are communication, leadership, conflict resolution, right? Then you got the hard skills like risk analysis, quality control, scheduling work, budgeting work. The soft skills are the human skills, right? You can develop them, but it's more of a human activity, right? That takes either you have it or you don't. Okay, either you're good at it or you're not. And you can take classes on this type of stuff and do this, but it's more dealing with the human factor of skill sets, right? Dealing with people, collaborating with people. Now we got the hard skill activities, right? Risk analysis, quality control, scheduling work, budgeting work, and I would even say technical skills. Okay, that work you can learn, via classes, or it's something that's actually applied to maybe operations or a process or a procedure, right? These are skill sets that are needed to execute on outputs for a job. A successful project manager needs both soft skills and hard skills, along with a judgment of when each is more necessary. Training, experience, mentoring are all instrumental in developing these necessary skills. Now let's talk about authority and responsibility. One person being assigned accountability. Then let's talk about project managers negotiate with functional managers. And then strong communication and leadership skills to persuade subordinates, right? Projects are most effectively managed when one person being assigned accountability, right? Project managers negotiate with functional managers typically. And then finally, project managers need to develop strong communication and leadership skills to persuade subordinates to focus on the project when other work beacons. So basically, you are the one that's driving the ship, and typically, if you're driving the ship, that project manager needs help. So that communication aspect, that collaboration and that coordination, and being able to persuade people to do something, that is important. The project life cycle, okay? So we have what's called selecting and initiation, planning, execution, and closing and realizing, right? Selection and initiation is a project, is what we call a project that's selected from an emerging idea, planned at a high level, and key participants commit to it in broad terms. When you're dealing with planning, it starts after initial commitment. It typically includes detailed planning and it ends with the stakeholders when the stakeholders accept the entire detailed plan. Executing includes the authorization, executing, monitoring, controlling work until the customer accepts the actual deliverables from the planning. Okay. Then finally, we have closing and realizing. What happens in this phase is that all activities after the customer acceptance to ensure the project is completed. So things like lesson learned, resources are reassigned, contributions are recognized, and benefits are realized. And we'll go over this a little bit more detail later on in this class. So finally, we have what's called the project life cycle, okay? The project life cycle is a series of phases that a project goes through from its initiation to its closure. That is the PMBOK definition. Project life cycles vary among different disciplines, but generally are comprised of the same general stages. A project must gain approval to move from one stage to the next, typically. And projects are measured at additional points. So you got your selections, you got the progress reporting, and then you got the benefits realization. Listen, every organization does this differently, and the project management life cycle may deviate based off of organization's culture or how they define project management. But ultimately, there is a version of a project life cycle within every organization that you deal with or you work for or you collaborate with. Just be flexible in understanding those life cycle definitions and phases and processes. This is just a plan-driven project life cycle with measurement points. Just take a look at the 4 phases, right? The selecting, initiation, the planning, the executing, and the closing and realizing. And just take a look at some of the deliverables or outcomes for each one of these phases. So, understanding projects. There's a Project Management Institute, the Project Management Body of Knowledge, the PMI Talent Triangle, selecting and prioritizing projects, project goals and constraints, defining the project success and failure. We're going to cover using Microsoft Project to help plan and measure projects, and then the types of projects and scalability of project tools. These are just a list of components covered in the understanding of project section. So, the Project Management Institute, what we call PMI. Basically, this is the largest professional organization, and it produces a guide to the project produces what we call the PMBOK. It's a guide to project management body of knowledge. So to us project management professionals, this is like the Bible to us. This is like the standard, the gold standard. We want to know these rules. These are standard rules that around the world people follow when they're working projects. We have what's called the talent triangle, where you have the technical PM, you got the leadership, and you have the strategic and the business management. All these 3 key individuals or groups typically make a project go. Then what we have what's called the Project Management Professional, the PMP certification. This is a critical certification. It's like when project managers take this certification and attain this certification, it's one of the hardest certifications to gain around the world. You are considered you're legitimized. You are a legit project manager, or at least you understand the advanced processes of managing a project when you have this certification. It's a very hard test, about 200 questions, take about I believe 2 to 4 hours to take, something like that. But it's not an easy test. But once you get that PMP certification, you can work. You are viewed throughout worldwide companies as a project management professional. Then we have what's called a Certified Associate in Project Management, the CAPM certification. This is not as hard as the PMP. It's about half the questions. My recommendation is don't start out with that Certified Association of Project Management, CAPM certification. If you're going to go get this certification, go for the gusto, right? Go for it all. Skip that CAPM and do the PMP certification. There's over 650,000 members and credential holders in about 885 countries. And the PMBOK is published, and there's regular updates on to this a guide of a project management body, a body of knowledge. So, just to learn more about this, just check out www.pmi.org. So in the PMBOK, there's 5 process groups, right? And some organizations may call this 5 planning area, 5 phases of a project. You have initiation, which and planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing. Okay, take a look at those definitions and see what you think. But ultimately, at least in this course, know that you have to know these 5 process groups based off of what PMBOK has listed. In other organizations, there's what you call phases, but the PMBOK defines these 5 areas as process groups. You have to know these 5 process groups. Initiation, define a project of a new phase by obtaining authorization. Planning, establishing the project scope, refining the objectives, and defining actions to attain objectives. Executing, to complete the work defined to satisfy project specifications. Monitoring, controlling, tracking, review, and regulate the progress of performance. Identify changes required and initiate changes. And then finally, we have the closing phase or process group, which is to finalize all activities to formally close project of phase. Listen, class, in this class, any class that you get with me, when I'm going over project management, you're going to have to know these 5 phases. And I guarantee you, not only will it be on the midterm, but it'll be on the final as well. So the PMBOK's 10 knowledge areas. There's integration management, there's scope management, there's schedule management, there's cost management, there's quality management, there's resource management, there's communication management, and then there's risk management. You have procurement management and stakeholder management. All I'm going to say is, I'm not going to go over these in detail because later on in this course, you will get more of a detailed view of all of these 10 knowledge areas. Just have an high-level understanding of what these are, and we're going to cover all of these 10 knowledge areas in later chapters. Okay, we have what's called the PMI Talent Triangle. Okay, the PMI Talent Triangle is a combination of technical, leadership, and strategic and business expertise, and now digital skills. Companies are seeking added skills in leadership and business intelligence, competencies that can support longer range strategic objectives that contribute to the bottom line. This is what the PMI Talent Triangle impacts. Selecting and prioritizing projects. Some of the bullets that we want to focus in on is what value does each potential project bring to the organization? Are the demands of performing each project understood? Are the resources needed to perform the project available? Which projects will best help the organization achieve its goals? And finally, is there enthusiastic support both from the external customers and from one or more internal companies? These are things that we have to think through. Once identified, organizations prioritize these potential projects. The best way to prioritize projects is to determine which projects align best with the major strategic goals of the organizations, regardless of the company size or industry. Project goals and constraints. When we're talking about project goals and constraints, projects are undertaken to accomplish specific goals, scope, and quality of performance goals. Okay, you guys remember in my previous class, what is scope? Scope is the sum of the products, services, and the results provided as a project. So everything that encompasses a project is what we call scope. So if you're taking one of my project management classes, right, the scope is we're going to talk about project management learning objectives, project management content. We're not going to go off and learn how to do Java. We're not going to learn coding. We're not going to go over Python. We're not going to go over database administration. That would be what we would consider out of scope for my project management class. Okay, so that's just an understanding of what scope is. Subject to constraints in time and cost. When we talk about quality, it's the degree to which a set of inherent characteristics fulfills requirements. When you're dealing with project goals and constraints, the scope and the quality measure performance and should result in outputs that ultimately satisfy the customer. You have to consider the scope and the quality subject to be constraints of time and cost. Always remember that. When we're talking about project goals and constraints, there's obstacles or challenges may limit the ability to perform. Opportunities may allow projects to exceed original expectations. Always know that project managers, the acronym for that would be PMs, decide which goals and constraints take precedence. Additional constraints could be amount of resources available and decision makers' risk tolerance. And here is just an exhibit of project customer trade-off. It's a project customer trade-off matrix. Let's take a look at it. Read it in the book. I'm not going to really focus in on this graphic too much. Plan-driven project success. So when we talk about plan-driven project success, these are some of the things that can help determine whether your project plan is going to be successful. So meeting agreements, dealing with costs, schedule, and specifications met, customer success, needs met, and deliverables used, customers satisfied, performance organization success, market share, new products, new technology. Then we have what we call project team success, loyalty, development, satisfaction. These are items, right, that will help drive a plan-driven project success. So let's talk about project success and failure, right? So listed below here is a list of some characteristics of project success and failure. Incomplete, unclear requirements, inadequate user involvement, inadequate resources, unrealistic time demands, unclear and unrealistic expectations, inadequate executive support, changing requirements, inadequate planning. Listen, we have to manage these areas well. If we don't manage these areas that are shown on this particular slide, most likely your project will fail. But if you manage each one of these bullet points well, your project will succeed. Using Microsoft Project to help plan and measure projects. Just know that Microsoft Project is a used tool to capture and conveniently display a variety of important project data in Microsoft Project. Microsoft Project is demonstrated in a step-by-step fashion using screenshots from a single integrated project throughout the book. In this class, we're going to learn how to use Microsoft Project. However, I believe in a crawl, walk, run type of approach when you're dealing with applications and tools and project management. First, I want to make sure that you guys understand the overall project management lifecycle. Then we're going to go ahead and use Excel to build up project plans and get the basics of not only putting a project plan together, but ultimately filling out the detail of a project plan. We'll start out in Excel, and then in the second half of this class, we'll start going in more and using Microsoft Project. So more to come on this. So types of projects, classifying by industry, you're classifying by size, you're classifying by timing of project scope clarity, and then you're classifying by application. Classifying by size. Large projects often require more detailed planning and control. And, listen, large projects require, more planning, there's more control just due to the complexity. Classifying by time of project scope clarity. How early in a project the project manager and a team are able to determine the project scope. This is just something describing classifying projects by timing and project scope clarity. Classifying by application. All projects require planning and control. The art of project management is these three items, right? When to use certain techniques, how to tailor techniques to the needs of a project, then ultimately how much detail to use, right? These are things to describe classifying projects by application. Just put some thought to that, and we'll go over more in detail. You'll understand that the art of project management is going to be covered throughout my class and in the book through future lessons. Scalability of project tools. So all projects require project specifications, understanding of work involved, budget and schedule determinations, assignment of available workers to tasks, then finally project management, right? Projects are scaled up and down to meet the complexity of the task. When dealing with projects, there's a determination of wants and needs of the customers. You have to have an understanding of the amount of work involved. There's typically a determination of the budget and schedule. And, understanding your resources and what they need to do is critical to project success. Then finally, management until the owner accepts the project results is critical for success of any project. So let's go over the project roles. We have what's called project executive level roles, then we have project management level roles, and then we have project associate level roles. So plan-driven project roles. You got the executive roles of a sponsor, customer steering team, and project management office. And then you have the managerial roles of the project management, functional manager, and the facilitator. Then you have the associate roles of core team member, or what we call a subject matter expert, aka SME. And always know that that sponsor, right, is the person or group that provides resources and support of the project and is accountable for enabling success. And the PMO, what we call the Project Management Office, know that a PMO is an organizational structure that standardizes the project-related governance processes and facilitates the sharing of resources, methodologies, tools, and techniques. That's straight from the PMBOK, everyone. So, project management level roles. You have the project manager, right? You have the functional manager, and you have the facilitator. Just know that the project manager directly is accountable for the project results, schedule, and budget. The book stops with them, right? Project manager, there's a man communicator. There's someone responsible for project planning and execution from start to finish. Then you have what we call limited formal power. Typically, the project manager is only accountable for resources actually executing on the task defined. However, they typically don't affect the performance evaluations or performance evaluations done every year. Then we have the project associate level roles, right? We have what's called the project team. The project team participates in most of the planning along with the project manager and make most of the project level decisions. The subject matter expert, SME, is a temporary member who is brought into the project team on as needed basis. So just know that when you're dealing with associate level roles, the temporary members called subject matter experts are used as needed on an as needed basis. So if you have a specific if there's a specific deliverable that not everybody on the team knows how to do, maybe you bring in a SME that focuses just on that specific deliverable and nothing else, and they provide insight and expertise in order for you to execute on that particular item that they brought in or that particular knowledge. Then we have what you call the PMBOK Guide, PMBOK Guide 7th edition. There's been over 7 editions of what we call the PMBOK, right? And we're going to talk about, we're going to go over the introduction, project performance domains, tailoring, and models and methods and artifacts. So with the introduction, right, the major changes of the PMBOK Guide, project management body of knowledge. The major changes, at least with this edition, is the focus is on delivering successful outcomes. One of the other major changes is more of a focus on the project performance domains, then more of a focus on tailoring, adapting a project. You have what's called the project performance domains, right? You have the stakeholder performance domain, you have the team, you have the development approach and lifecycle performance domain, you have the planning, you have the project work, you have the delivery, you have the management and uncertainty. These are all performance domains that we will focus in on later on in this class. We have what's called tailoring. It's engagement. Tailoring includes people, empowerment, integration, tools, methods, and artifacts. Tailoring should consider deliverables to be producers, project team, and culture. And ultimately, when you're talking about people, empowerment, integration, and tools, methods, and artifacts, these have to be tailored or tweaked depending on the project, depending on the organization, depending on the environment in which you are working a particular project. It will definitely impact either the product, the service, or the result at the end of the day. So let's go ahead and talk about models, methods, and artifacts, what we call the acronym MMA. Number one is commonly used models. For example, situation, leadership, and communication. We got the mapping models. They're commonly used methods like data gathering and analysis and estimating. You got mapping methods for performance domains. You have commonly used artifacts. Example of that would be strategy, log plans, hierarchy charts, baselines. Then we have mapping artifacts to performance domains. There's no one approach. It's just a mix of approaches is ultimately suggested. Okay, and when you think about this, model is just a thinking strategy. It's a method. A method is a means, and an artifact is just a template, a document, or output, or deliverable. These sections, much of the how to, or much what we call the how to of project management, and maybe a useful reference. Now let's go in on giving you guys an Agile introduction. We're going to cover the introduction, the Agile Manifesto, Agile Terms, and we'll go ahead and cover the adaptive project lifecycle with measurement points. So from an introduction standpoint of Agile, to gain maximum benefit of one, both be Agile and do Agile. When you think about Agile as a value, it values individuals more than processes. The value, it comes from working software more than documentation. The value is the customer collaboration more than the negotiation. Then finally, the value is the response to change over following a plan. Basically, that is a quick overview of what Agile is in today's modern work environment. This is an Agile Manifesto. Typically, every organization is different, but understanding customer satisfaction is given the highest priority. So unlike a plan-driven approach, changes and requirements are appreciated at any point of the project with a view to exploit competitive advantage for the customer. Number three, you have to present working software to the client frequently during the project execution phase. Finally, we have the people representing the business and development teams must work together constantly. Number five, we have project team comprised of motivated people must be engaged in the project. Support and trust must be extended to the project team. Then finally, we have face-to-face communication must be employed, which is considered effective and efficient. In other words, it is preferable to have a co-located project team. And basically, this is just the basics of an Agile Manifesto. It's based off of some principles, and we got some more principles as well. There's basically about 12 of them. Let's go to the second set of principles. So, second set of principles is the project progress is the progress made in developing working software. Agile process is meant to create substantial development, which demands sponsors, developers, and users work at the same pace for a long period. Then we have uninterrupted attention to a technical excellence, and good design boosts agility. Number 10 is simplicity, right? The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. Number 11, you have the self-managed teams help develop the best architectures, requirements, and designs. And then finally, out of the 12 Agile Manifesto principles, if not daily, the team routinely considers how to improve effectiveness and amends its behavior accordingly. So it's about continuous improvement in an Agile framework project when you work in an Agile environment. Here is just an exhibit of comparison between plan-driven and Agile approaches in a project introduction. Plan-driven, another term for plan driven would be waterfall. Then you have agile, which is more adaptive. I'm not going to go over all these boxes, but just go ahead and take a look, and it kind of gives you a comparison between both waterfall or plan driven versus agile, which or what some other people may call adaptive approach. Some standard terms when we're dealing with working in an agile framework project. We have agile. We have the agile life cycle. We have what we call the iterative approach. We have the product owner. We have the scrum master. We have the team member. We have the emergent design. We'll go over these terms a lot more in detail in this class, but just kind of take a look at each one of these roles and the description. So the agile project roles, and you have the executive roles, which is the product owner, project sponsor, portfolio team, and the project management scrum office, right? Then you have the managerial roles, which is the product owner, the scrum master, the functional manager, and the coach. Then finally you have the associate roles, which are the team members. What is missing in this exhibit is what we call the product manager. Typically the product manager, it would be in an executive role, and they are the one who basically relays information of that product or service to the executive roles, and then from there they determine how exactly they want to approach the work that needs to be done to accomplish that service, product, or results. Okay, everyone, this is the ending of Chapter 1, Introduction to Project Management. Hey, listen, if you have any questions, please comment, send me an email, and just let me know if you have some specific questions on the content provided in these slides. You guys have a good rest of your day. I'm out.